Hello, everybody. Finally, One and Done has come back to help you get this bread. Recording live from somewhere, this is One and Done.
Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
It's time once again for everybody to come aboard that Green Screens Media train. Welcome to One and Done, your fast break of college basketball information. And we happen to be powered by drroto.com. I am your humble host. My name is Jay Heinrich. And I happen to be the conductor of the aforementioned Green Screens Media train. Find me on X at Dr. William Cannon. Follow me, and I will smash that follow button back. And now, I will. Oh, it's true. It's damn true. Now let's get right to two of the absolute best in the business to do it, starting with Capitan himself, the captain of the Green Screens Media ship. Follow that man on X at MC Holland 34. The OG Money Mike. That's Mr. Mike Holland. What it do, baby?
What up, man? I'm glad it's the weekend. We got the Super Bowl, so take a quick 24-hour break from the college basketball streets on Sunday. Had a pretty good slate on Thursday, so I'm going to go ahead and blow some money on a qualifier tomorrow as per usual. So net profit tomorrow already in the negatives, but looking forward to it, man. Who do you got? Who do you got, Jay, in the Super Bowl? Who's your pick officially?
I'm in the spot like that. I'm taking Kansas City. I'm taking Kansas City because it makes the most sense for the script writers to make it go that way. So I'm gonna go Kansas City, and I'm actually gonna say that it's not gonna be close either. But we're gonna get your Super Bowl picks in a little bit. But last in the intros. First in your hearts, the Baron of Bread of Green Screens Media, who you can find in those Twitter streets at Fantasy Nav, Eric. Hello, Mr. Eric Aroma. What's happening?
Man, I am going to abstain from a Super Bowl pick, but what I will say is Reba is going to fly past 90.5 seconds on that national anthem. I think there's been like 2 times in the last 20 years where it has been less than 90 seconds. So start your Sunday off with a little bit of profit and take the over on her 90.5 second line where you can get it. Some states are limiting it, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about some college basketball. 12 gamer on the board for tomorrow afternoon. We have a 5K to first big jam. So those prize pools are getting a little bit bigger, still plenty top heavy. So we have to make sure that with tonight's work, we are going to ship the thing outright, ship a prize with a comma in it. And we've got some of our favorites along in the comments trying to do just that. Cam C. Thuggin himself checking in with the sup fellas. Happy weekend. It's here. And then Corey McDaniels sitting on his pile of single entry winnings like Scrooge McDuck, right? Just sitting here on top of all that cash. What's up, my guys? What's up, Corey? Happy to see you here. And Cam's already jumping into the analysis, right? Pricing on the slate makes it a little tough, right?
There's been some tough ones lately. We've had trouble finding value. We're going to get into that. We're going to get a little bit of the old game theory like we always do, but we're going to give you our normal one and done rundown, which is our overview of the slate, followed by our showcase games, 3 showcase games tonight, and then our tier plays for all of the remaining games, high, mid, and low. High, mid.
Hey, mid.
Mid. And low tier. And then, of course, at the end of the night, famous Core Four and more to help you get your lineup started with Mama Rocks hopping in the live chat. What it do?
What it do?
And Mama Rocks bringing the fire emojis already to start the show. I'm feeling it. Keep that live chat rolling. Cam keeping it rolling too. Love it. Let's keep the chatting going. Let's keep the energy up today. Drop anything in the chat that you want to know. First time, long time, doesn't make us any difference. Make sure you say hi. Drop the fire emoji in the chat. Drop the thumbs up, But most importantly, the best way to show us some love is to, if you haven't already, hit those like and subscribe buttons Turn on those notification bells so you don't miss anything that we're doing. It's like the 5th time in 6 days we've gone live. And we've done some pretty good work over the last week or so. So if you aren't hanging out with One and Done leading all the way into March, you're missing out. So hang out with us. Let's hit these DraftKings streets. But first, a 12-game slate on Saturday, starting Saturday morning, tipping, well, I guess noontime if you're on the East Coast, noon on the East. There's that one game that stands out over 160, 166 actually with Alabama and LSU. Oh, yeah, wait, I forgot. 2 of them. There's 160 right there with Auburn and Florida. So a couple of big totals here that we're going to talk about, and then a few more as well. But Mike, Cam thinking it's a tough slate. This is looking like a slate, though, that we might be able to attack it from a few different ways.
Yeah, I'm going to rarely disagree with Cam here. So an interesting start to our show already, Cam. Usually we are riding off into the sunset with Riley Kugel in our best lineups and fading Zach Edey in our worst. So, man, I don't know. I'm looking at this from a whole, and I think this slate has it all. I think you can kind of do whatever you want. It may be a little uncomfortable, but there's plenty of pay-up options. There's like 16 guys over 8K. I think there's some value plays that we're going to be able to exploit. The lower mid-tier section has got some guys that can go 5 to 6X. There's a lot of contrarian plays in the 7K range that I think could be a difference maker in tournaments. And then, just up and down the board, there are just so many different tourney plays. So I actually kind of like 4 to 5 different options in the value range, whereas most slates, it's like we're all going to have to do this or we're all going to have to do that, and it's just going to be terrifying. So, at least from my perspective, I think you can pretty much do what you want. Alabama, Auburn on the slate, though, that to me is where it gets, as per usual, gets a little crazy, gets a little annoying. Both of those games. In our showcase, the rotation's always scary. Combined, those teams will drop 21 players on the floor. So not as exciting when you see that many guys touch the floor. But I think getting them right, it's usually the key to winning it all, because they play in like these ridiculous totals, which Jay kind of mentioned off the top. Both games are featuring 160-plus totals. There's going to be one guy or 2 guys in those games on the Alabama or Auburn side that's going to go bonkers. It's just, can you figure out which, one out of the 6 or 7 that actually play minutes it's going to happen with. So I'll turn it over to Eric, get some of his thoughts on this slate.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it is a rare luxury that we head into a slate with some value that we feel pretty comfortable with, but that does not mean that we are immune from the late news that's going to open up value. It happens every single slate, right? And it's always someone random. It always either creates opportunity for someone else on the team or just shifts the dynamic of the pay scale and the player pool overall. So some of the more expensive guys kind of, open up and get rostered more often. So finding that news is the hard part, right? Like, really have to get good about notifications for basically all 350 plus teams. Finding beat reporters that are trustworthy that cover those teams. Another good way to try to get some of that late breaking news. So a little bit more of a PSA to start here than a slate overview. But looking at the slate itself, like I kind of get the sense it's gonna take a bigger number to ship this one, right? Like 12 games on the board, with the value that we feel pretty comfortable with, a lot of different ways you can attack this. So with that being the case, like, you really have to double down on ways to get contrarian, right? Like, how do we go about doing it? Do we overload in some of these higher scoring games? Do we maybe find that one piece in a lower scoring game that is being overlooked, right? However we go about doing it, getting a little bit different, I think, is going to be really crucial on this 12 gamer.
Oh, got you on mute, Jay.
We
want to hear you.
Yeah, the people want to hear
your
you.
Face.
We want to see your face. It's good to have a slate where we can approach it from a bunch of different ways here. The live chat, I will say, is being approached in quite a few different ways, including Jason B saying, "Good evening, gentlemen." Jason, good to see you in there. And then a little bit further down, Jason reminding us that Isaiah West was in the winning lineup on Tuesday after we sort of said, I don't know. It wasn't Jason's lineup. Yeah, we were Mike and I were top 30-ish that day, and we definitely noticed that Isaiah West was in the old numero uno. He only had like a point,
one
half,
fantasy
but
point.
He was on the winner or whatever. So yeah, way to go, Jason. Picking winners.
Man.
Oh boy.
And all day right
that
there.
dub all day.
Picking winners.
Don't care how you get there.
Yep, doesn't matter. Winner's a winner. Even the last guy on the bench gets a ring. Okay, let's be honest with this. Before we hop into the showcase, what do we got here? Cam, did Cam drop a couple of plays in here?
Yeah.
Michi Johnson and BJ Mack.
Yo, oof. Oh, Michi and Mack, huh? Yeah, I mean they're minus 15 against Vanderbilt.
It's freaking Vandy, right?
I like Studi, man. Revenge time, 4,200, what do you guys gonna play 25 minutes? 4x right there for you. There's one value play. What else we got in these comments, in these streets? Cam.
Flowing, going back and forth. What did Cam say?
This is funny because
Hunter Erickson in the winner of the 2K
yeah,
last
he
night.
didn't do anything either. I'm like, come on. Basically, it's like pick one 3K guy, doesn't matter who he is, and then just play everyone else that hits 5 pesos.
Yeah, do it. Easy as pie. We just gave you the blueprint right there, but stick around anyway as we break down these 3 showcase games and then give you some plays from the last 9 games in the tiers and then the core 4. Make sure you smash those buttons too for your boys, for your broskies in basketball.
Bing.
As we jump into the 3-game showcase for this Saturday slate starting at noon on the East Coast, our first showcase game is Clemson on the road at Syracuse. And those Tigers are 2-point favorites on the road. 76 points implied for the Clemson Tigers, 74 for Syracuse. Couple of really good defensive teams here. And Syracuse does like to get up and down, so a pace-up spot for Clemson. Honestly, both of them have, like, the defensive, the metrics look good, but once conference play came around, it's sort of a mirage, right, guys? Like, where you look at that and it's like those numbers don't tell the whole truth of how they've been playing lately. So let's start with the pace-up spot first, Mike, here with Clemson. 8 or 9-man rotation depending on the night, but we know in a situation like this that we like, starters are going to get big minutes. Yeah,
starters are going to get big minutes, and like you said, Jay, like you read off and that's why, defensive efficiency, it's like, oh, overall it looks good, but then you pull back the curtain in ACC play and both these teams getting smashed. Syracuse 12th in defensive efficiency, Clemson 13th in defensive efficiency in the ACC, which features 15 teams. So should be a lot of fantasy points to go around for the Clemson offense. The big advantage here with this Q's defense, they give up the old 3 balls. Syracuse is dead last in the ACC in opponent 3-point percentage, giving up 38.5%. They're also 13th in opponent 2-point percentage. So can't stop it inside, can't stop it outside. They're also giving up nearly a 50% assist rate. So, we're going to want to get into some of these Clemson Tigers. PJ Hall, 8,900. Came back with that 42 spot against Baycott. So, hey, maybe we're going to get some more of these 40 bombs that we saw earlier in the year from him. Obviously, massive usage, double-double threat. 7% shot block rate this year. Not shooting it quite as well from 3. This year shooting 31%, but he's taken over 100 attempts. Firmly in play in this spot. He's an inside-outside guy, so when you can't stop someone inside and you can't stop someone from the outside, he's like the perfect play in this matchup. The problem is you have to pay $8,900 to get him. Pivot off of him, obviously Shiflin, who for whatever reason, he just does not like UNC. He's doing his thing. 32 fantasy points in that one. Not a guy with the highest usage and shot rate, but a great rebounder. He can play make a little bit. He's a great passer, a 2% block rate. I don't know, man. It's tough when he's weird because it feels like, Gerard and Clark and Hunter are the other guys that are really going to get these shots up. But then Chiplin's just clean. He's just doing the little things. He's basically like a little more offensive-minded Brock Cunningham. But at 7,200, I'm probably just going to slide down $800 at the guard position.
Mike, with the 16% assist rate there, you talked earlier how Syracuse is, near 50% assist rate there. Is it worth considering him because he's going to get some of those counting stats there? 7,200 does seem a little steep, but
it's steep.
It does set up for the type of a matchup or the type of a matchup that where his metrics look like. It's tough to pay that much for a 60% shot rate, though. I guess is what I'm getting at. Like how do you come up with a balance? Where's the line there? Or how do you weigh that off when you have such a good matchup in terms of the team giving up assists per basket made?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the line comes down to he's not going to be owned, and you want to be different in tournaments. The thing is, he's going to need to take 7 or 8 shots, and he's going to need to make almost all of them. You're going to have to couple that with a double-double in order for him to get into the 30s. At 7,200, though, like, a 31 on a 12-game slate, a 31 on a 6-game slate is, that's, that's a great pivot. 31 on this 12-game slate at 7,200. You're only looking at 4.5x. So I don't know that you need to go here. But for tournaments, like, people are going to pay up for PJ Hall. People are going to go down to Joe Girard and also Jack Clark, who has now found himself in the starting lineup and is one of the better value plays on the slate. So Joe Girard at 6,400 here obviously went off. He was in our tournament core last time. I think we may see him there again. The revenge game, as Jason B is pointing out here.
Whole narrative stream.
He did spend time at Syracuse. I would expect him to take 20 shots in this one in the revenge narrative. Syracuse, like I said, there's going to be a lot of fantasy points given up in this one. So shooting 43% from 3. Just a guy that you love to play in tournaments. When you start getting over that 7K range, that's when you start to pump the brakes a little bit. But as long as he's going to be, 6,500, 6,600 and under, I'm going to continue firing him up in these, in these spots. And then Jack Clark. Oh, man, 4,200. Like, all right. So I guess the Chauncey Wiggins thing is kind of over. Jack Clark transferred in from North Carolina State. Really liked his game last year. Had him in some winning lineups last year when he was playing that 4 spot for North Carolina State. Got the start, played 33 minutes, only shot 1 for 6, but he put up 18.75. Grabbed 7 rebounds. He is a guy that can get some steals and blocks. Each stock is, basically half X value. So at 4,200, I am going to be finding myself to a lot of Jack Clark on our metric series. On our value board. He is way up here. It is terrifying, right? Because we haven't seen the consistency yet, but you figure he's been inserted at North Carolina for 33 minutes. You have to feel pretty good at Syracuse being run out there for another 30 to 35 minutes. And even if he gets cut down to 22 to 25, you still feel okay about the 4,200. Now, obviously his ceiling's going to drop. But I'm willing to take shots, and he's a great stacking piece, which is another reason people are not going to go to Shiplin, because you can pay up for PJ Hall or you can pay all the way down and get this value in Jack Clark. No one's going to roster Ian Shiplin, especially with Girard there too. People are going to pay for that revenge game. He's going to be super popular, which takes us to the final piece of the puzzle, Eric, a guy that we have had a hard time with this year. I think I've only gotten him right one time. Tell the people who that is.
Man, you mentioned Wiggins not being a thing anymore. Safe to say, pretty similar set of circumstances for Chase Hunter here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a point where he was the clear number 2 option on this team, and now over the course of the last few weeks, couple of months, like he's really fallen back to 4th, 5th in the pecking order, right? Like, he's on the court a good amount, so I was still a little hopeful that if his price came in at the right point, 5K, 5.2K, something like that, you might be able to get cute and click the button on his name. But at 5.7K, like I don't think you really need to do it. I guess he's kind of like he's like the Dark Universe version of Ian Shiplin, right? Like no one's gonna go here. And as we talk about ways to get different on this slate, like finding an under-owned piece in one of these showcase games is of value, right? So like if this is where you want to make your stand, you mentioned the assist boost. Chase Hunter's got a 15% assist rate. You mentioned a 3-point boost. He's only shooting 28% from 3, but he's taking a decent amount. He's taking 80 shots from range, right? So like there are a couple of things about this game in particular that feel like it could set up for a little bit of a better outing for him. But man, he's got to be perfect to pay off 5.7K. So you're really taking a lot of risk if this is where you plant your flag.
Too expensive. I can't do it. Just too expensive. Can't do it. Sorry. I'll much rather. I'm with Mama Rocks. I would much rather go to Shiflin just if I was going to take somebody on the side. Mama Rock's taking. And did somebody put up the cat signal? Sam the Sniper's here. How about it? Auburn family. How about that domination of Bama? Yeah, and then Mama Rock saying that the Tigers.
Was it -3? Impressive. Yeah, that was an easy bet.
Yep, we definitely were in line with that, and we are going to move on to Syracuse now. 7 guys check in, but this is a 6-player rotation, Mike, and it's there's some guys who it's hard to get when you look at like a Malik Brown who goes 11 one day and then goes 50 the next, and it's like where are we? What are we even doing here? But Judah Mintz obviously on this Syracuse side. So what's going on? How do we attack this side of the ball? It's obviously a game that we want to get into. Are any of these guys playable?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Malik Brown because he was already heavy into our conversation the other day. That 50 piece was so annoying. I don't know. I thought I did it right where, you played Judah Mintz at 8,400 when all that happened was Benny Williams is dismissed. So, that didn't really affect Malik Brown. He just decided to go bonkers against Louisville, and Judah Mintz was just chilling the whole time. So, still put up 32 fantasy points in a game where he was just chilling. So that just tells you a lot about just how great of a player he is. Massive usage, massive shot, massive assist rate, 4% steal rate is elite. Can shoot a little bit from 3. So just a guy that really gets to the free throw line. At 8,400, he's pretty much a cash lock. Until he starts creeping back into that 9K range, it just feels like it doesn't matter. He's just matchup proof. Unless they're playing Virginia, that's about the only team that they could play in the ACC that I wouldn't lock him in for cash. So 8,400, love Judah Mintz' floor, but he also has ceiling. Like this guy can pop off for 45, 50. So, maybe do his best Malik Brown impersonation tomorrow. We'll see. Speaking of Brown, he is 7,600. I can't believe he was 15% the other day. I struggle to believe that Benny Williams news that people thought that Malik Brown, who was playing 32 to 35 minutes anyway, was just going to get some type of ridiculous usage. That kind of went to Copeland. His minutes went up drastically. So, congrats to the 15% that knew that Malik Brown was going to have 11 or 12 stocks or whatever the stupid stat was. But for a guy on the year that has a 14% usage rate, he really gets it done with stocks, and it's just hard to trust from game to game. Now, Louisville is terrible. Obviously, that was a good spot for him. So that 4% block and that 4% steal rate, you still don't expect double-digit stocks, though. He has a 27% rebounding rate. Really, the range of his outcomes, it feels like most times the ceiling is going to be in the 30s. I struggle to see where those type of stocks are going to race you into the high 40s and 50s. So Malik Brown, if you want to play him and chase that, you're more than welcome to. I will not be doing that. I will not be playing JJ Starling either. Just Eric talks about it all the time. Once you get over the 6K range and you're just absolutely shot dependent, it is so hard to pay off, especially when you have Judah Mintz at a 31% usage rate. JJ Starling has to shoot 70% from the field and take at least 15 shots to pay this price off. So at 6,200, he played a really good game the other day, and he still only had 24 fantasy points. He doesn't rebound the ball. He's only got a 10% assist rate. He's only shooting 32% from 3. So Starling has to have one of those games where he just takes over offensively and gets a ton of shots to really get there. He's on the floor a lot, but he's kind of an all cardio guy. I would much rather spend $100 less and play Quadir Copeland at 6,100. Now this guy, when he got the minutes, about a month ago, he put up that absurd game against, I think it was against Pitt, if I'm not mistaken. But he put up a 50 piece. He had a 36 the other day. He had 29 last game out, obviously getting those minutes back into the 30s. That's where the Williams minutes have gone here. A 24% usage rate, a 20% shot rate on the season, a 25% rebounding rate for a guard, and then 22% assist rate and a 4% elite steal rate. Quadir Copeland, I can see why people went there last time. I will definitely be using him on a few tournaments. The shot rate obviously is a little bit to be desired, but he has so many outs in other places. that it feels like he's kind of cashy with a little bit of upside if he gets the shots. Obviously, we saw that 45 versus Pitt. So, do I think he's going to go for a 36? Probably not. But I mean, he's a pretty good chance to go 5x at 6,100, which you would absolutely take in tournaments for sure. So, anybody else, Eric? That like Justin Taylor and these guys. I don't know. Just not for me, man. Who you got?
Yeah, it sounds like you're not alone in feeling unsure about the remaining options. Jason B, not sure how he feels about living in a world where Chris Bell is 6.1K. No. Another absolute explosion for this Syracuse side in that last game. Went off for a career high, earned himself 44, almost 45 fantasy points at 5.1K. So all this is to say, I'm pretty sure people are going to chase that last game, even though he has gone up a full $1,000 up to 6.1K. I mean, I don't hate it in terms of, the matchup overall. I don't feel great about eating, 6K shot dependent chalk, which, for Chris Bell in particular, that's really the story, right? Like, took 10 threes in that game. He hit 8 of them. Probably not going to happen again on any given night, right? So, like you're really anchoring yourself to kind of a bad situation. But I mean, he's one of the primary benefactors of Benny Williams being dismissed. He's certainly an option as a stacking partner. Like if you want to go, kind of pair him up with a little bit more of a stable player like Mintz, you can make a case for it. But I mean, another guy that you're really banking on a lot of things going right for with Chris Bell.
Whole lot of things got to hit just right for Bell to pay that off. Yeah.
This game's hard enough as it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm with Jason here. It's what if I told you that Chris Bell would be 6.1K?
I told you I lost a lot of money. That's the last
yeah, I told you the slate before that we all went broke.
We did not win anything. That's probably all right. Very good. First game down in the showcase, 2 to go here. Keep the live chat rolling. We appreciate that for sure. And hit those like and subscribe buttons. Do your part in the old Green Screens Media universe. What are we at? We at 780 yet? We're right near 780. Let's see if we can get to 780 before the end of the night. On our way to 800 and beyond. Make sure to tell the hoop heads and bread heads in your life if they like eating bread. Just these 3 guys on your screen. And our guy at The Real Napier, Nape C. Hustle. Don't forget him. You're seeing him a lot, hearing him a lot on the old socials. At One and Done CBB. At Get Green Screens over on old TikTok. Make sure you follow us there for some content. Nape C. Hustle is saying, hey, guys, trying to put some content out. What are we doing? And we're like, okay, do it, Nape. You're the man. So that's why
it's your world.
Content. And exactly, man. We're happy to have him doing that. Make sure you follow him at The Real Napier. Make sure you follow at Get Green Screens on TikTok and Twitter as well. And old at One and Done CBB for the show page. As we move on now to game 2 of the showcase, the highest total on the slate, 166 points. That Alabama LSU matchup here, 87 implied points here for the old Roll Tide Alabama here. What we don't like, though, we love 87 implied points. We love second in offensive efficiency, and we definitely love 16th in tempo. What we don't love, Mike, is that they play 10 guys, and you never, and it does, and one of them's going to play 32 minutes one night, and the next night they're going to play 22. And you don't know who's going to, it's an annoying 10 guy wheel spin.
Yep. Let's spin that wheel again, my friend. Let's spin that wheel again. Looking at this matchup, both teams foul a ton, so there's going to be a lot of freebies, maybe some and ones out there. Not maybe, they're going to be some and ones out there. LSU's 13th in the conference out of 14 teams in opponent free throw rate. They also give up a ton of 3-point attempts. So that's a good combination for fantasy points. The old free throw where the clock is stopped and the old 3-ball where you get the half-point bonus. So, man, looking at the prices of all of these guys, Aaron Estrada absolutely sticks out like a sore thumb in tournaments for me. He's a guy that I have a hard time not playing in tournaments. He has 40 fantasy point upside every time he takes the court. The price has come down. Wasn't great in that. He's actually started off really hot in the Auburn game. He was at like 12 fantasy points within like the first 7 minutes. And then we kind of saw what happened the rest of that game, which we thought might happen. So now we get the price drop here. He's not that far removed from dropping 31, 39 fantasy points. I mean, the guy across the board has really nice rates, a 25% shot rate, almost a 20% combined rebounding rate, a 24% assist rate, a 3% steal rate. He's shooting 35% from three on almost 100 attempts. So Aaron Estrada at 6,600, feel like he is always an interesting option for tournaments because he's always 3 to 5%. We got a comment here saying Mama Rocks, Grant Nelson Day at 6,900. Finally, yeah, he's under 7K. So, no, of course, $100 under 7K.
Yeah, I played him on Tuesday. I played him on Tuesday and got 30 out of him. It was, he was just over 4x, I believe. So
yeah, that was only in 26 minutes, and the game was blown out. So. Maybe starting around in the form, you got to think if the game stays tight, he plays 32 to 33 minutes like he normally does. So Grant Nelson, man, like we know he's super talented. We know he's going to be an NBA pick. We know he has a great rebounding rate, 6% shot block rate, taking a ton of threes, just not making a lot of them. So we start those games where he starts knocking those threes down. Key factor, look at, he was much more aggressive getting to the free throw line. Took 12 free throws in that last game. We'd love to see that, him, using that athleticism to get to the rim instead of trying to show the NBA scouts he can hit the three. That would pay us off a lot here at 6,900. So definitely in the tournament player pool are Nelson and Estrada. Latrell Wrightsell at 5,800. I hate the usage in the shot rate, but it's kind of gone up in conference play. Before the blowout at Auburn, I mean, he had 26, 20, 26, and 30. At 5,800, I mean, that's not bad. Feels a little cashy. Minutes are, starting to become a little more secure, typically in the high 20s whenever obviously the game is closer. So, I wish it was about $500 cheaper. Definitely would play him a little bit more in tournament. The 5,800 feels like some of his upside is kind of capped there. Rylan Griffin, kind of where you want Latrell Wrightsell to be. He's at 5,400, coming off back-to-back 17s. Again, you can kind of toss that Auburn game out. Guy that's shooting 40% from three on 105 attempts. So Rylan Griffin, if you need a stacking partner for cheap, you want to get into this game with a couple of guys, he is definitely a way to do that. He has flashed 30 fantasy point upside. He is kind of shot dependent, though, on that three ball. And, you kind of need his minutes to be a little more secure. I mean, he's played 30, 20, 28, 18. It's all over the place. So he's one of those guys that Jay just mentioned where you don't know if he's playing 32 minutes or you don't know if he's playing if he's going to play 18. So it's definitely a spin the wheel type deal. But if you're playing that large field with almost 1,200 teams and you want to get two guys on this side, I do not mind using Rylan Griffin as a cheaper option to get on this side. I think I buried the lead, Eric. There's a guy here, Mark Sears, that has been pretty good at basketball this year. So what say you? Am I doing this wrong? Do I just click the name?
My guy, the unabashed disrespect of not starting with Mark Sears when you're talking about the Crimson Tide. I mean, like I'm gonna need a moment to collect myself, but I'll try to power through. Like Sears is a phenomenal cash play on any given night, but also, I mean, he's got enough tournament upside, right? Like 8.8K, posting up 45s basically every other game. You'll take that in the largest of tournaments, including that 5K tournament on the board for tomorrow. Look, what can you really say, right? Like he's one of the best guards in the country. His rates are phenomenal, right? Like you love the minutes, especially on a team that gets a little weird with their rotations. Getting a guy that's going to be out there, for high 30s minutes in that context is something to covet, right? And in particular, the things that he does for this team, like they fit really well with this specific matchup, right? Like 117 3-point attempts. You mentioned that LSU has given up a ton of 3-pointers, so he's among the leaders of the Tide from shots from downtown. He's also taken a ton of free throws, 142 to be exact. So if anyone is going to the line think it's going to be a lot of Sears and a lot of Nelson from the charity stripe. So, the thing with Sears is really just trying to get a gauge of how popular he's going to be. Given that we've got some pretty good looking value on the board, I think there's going to be a fair amount of people going to Sears at 8.8K. But honestly, I don't know if that's a bad thing, right? Like this is the kind of chalk that you feel okay about eating.
44, 33, 45, 35, 43. I almost feel like he's going to end up in the 30s again. If just, so maybe this is the one to fade, or he'll get 57 or something like that because he's that good. He is really good. Mike did bury the lead a little bit on that for sure, but it's tough to figure out the Crimson Tide on a night in and night out basis. Yeah, good luck with that. There's some solid plays here, but good luck.
Yeah, usually sometimes you look up and there's 8 minutes to go in the first half and you're like, uh-oh. What happened here?
Yeah, man. Grant Nelson is still on my I wish I knew how to quit you list because I just feel like he's going to burn me here real soon. But yeah, let's move on now to the old LSU Tigers. An 8-man rotation if Cook is out. Mama Rocks did mention Cook in the comments. We're going to get to that in a second, but I'm going to start with Eric first here. What do you think about this matchup for LSU and how some of these nobody over 7.7K on this side and a really high total.
Yeah, that's really it, right? Like the matchup isn't great, but the pricing is pretty interesting, right? Like there are some guys that can pop off in the mid 7Ks, even lower, right? So like, the implied total for this team, makes it interesting when you couple it up with the price. And also, Alabama, they turn the ball over at a pretty high rate. So, guys that are good with steals, guys that are racking up assists out there, for the LSU side, maybe on the fast break, these are guys that can potentially have a little bit more of a ceiling type of game. The aforementioned price king for the LSU Tigers is none other than Jordan Wright, 7.7K. Look, if LSU is going to pull this upset, like they need him to be at his absolute best, right? So like, looking over his game log, he's come back to earth a little bit, coming off of a 16-pointer. You certainly don't like that in the mid 7Ks, but he's got some 30s. He's reached back and gotten, over 40 before. He's exploded for 55, which is clearly going to be his best game of the year. So, the upside is at least, on the radar for him to reach back and get it. I don't know if I'm going to go there in particular, more so to do with just how few and far between those ceiling games are. But also there are some more interesting options here on the LSU side, at least not the least of which is Will Baker. 5.8K, certainly don't mind that price tag, sub 6K, for a guy that is out on the court in the mid 30s, at least for the last couple of games. The year on the whole has been kind of up and down for him. Because of that, I don't know if many people are going to click the button. So it feels like he should be in the tournament pool overall. With those minutes back up, like it almost feels like he's kind of a core type play, especially if we were really confident about him playing 30 minutes, right?
Was thinking the same thing, like a borderline, like almost a guy that you've got to consider when you're just building at all with this price. Like, absolutely agree with you there. Will Baker is somebody that we're familiar with down here in the Austin area. That's like, man, like that price just seems like it's like it feels like it's gonna be like 6,300 the next time that we talk, and that makes
you want to play him.
That makes me want to get on a little bit of Will Baker here. But Mike, let's move to Jalen Cook. Mama Rock's comments. We talked about it's an 8-man rotation if Cook is out. So tell us a little bit about Cook here, but also, but if also he is,
yeah,
where are we going with the other players on this side of the court?
Yeah, I got the hamstring issue. Tried to find some information today. Was supposed to test it out today. Don't know that we have that. So it's probably one of those things where we're going to have to wait till right up to lock to figure it out. And kind of one of the keys to the slate. So it's a game time decision right now. But that's how it is in the CBB DFS role. Obviously, if he's in, he's a guy that can pop off a 29 usage rate to a 33 shot rate. I mean, those things you love to see, but you worry about the injury, the hamstring, those things tend to flare up. So don't know if I'm going to use him if he's in. The question pertaining to Mama Rocks here, who do you go to? And that's going to be Trey Hannibal. He is now 5,500, which is really annoying. He came over with Coach McMahon over from Murray State a few years ago. Usage rate lives a little bit to be desired. The shot rate too. He's a great rebounder, a great assist rate for someone that's typically a role type player. But when you slot him in for 31 to 32 minutes with a 4% steal rate and his toughness, he's a guy that can go off for 22 to 30 fantasy points. So especially in this type of environment, especially with Alabama turning the ball over and you have a 4% steal rate, some easy buckets for Hannibal. And when you just watch him play, he just puts his head down, drives really hard, isn't really a threat from outside. But he can create, and he's kind of a guy that McMahon trusts over the past, he's been with him for quite a while now. So Trey Hannibal at 5,500, I think we're going to see him in one of our cores as long as Jalen Cook stays out. And luckily we have a bunch of pivots we can potentially go to. Jalen Reed, 4,900, man, like just one of those things where you just like Jalen Reed, if you told me 25 minutes, I'm invested in a little bit, but I mean, not at this point. I mean, a guy that can go for 20 fantasy points, a guy that has gone for, 25, 30 fantasy points. So, the role seems a little bit off if Baker's going to play 30 plus minutes, if, Jordan Wright's going to play 30 plus minutes, if Terrell Ward is going to, get in there and play 20 minutes at the forward position at 4,600, that's going to take away from Jalen Reed. So, all these other guys just kind of meh, right? Like it's really for me, I kind of like the Will Baker call along with Trey Hannibal as long as Cook is out. Jason B coming through right here saying Fountain seems like an okay play versus Bama. 4.1 for 15 to 20 may open up some higher money plays. Yeah, I mean, Derek Fountain's in the player pool. He's a transfer from Mississippi State. He really has got to get it done by making the most of his shot attempts and by rebounding. He's not a guy that does much else. So for 4.1, like everything kind of has to go right. And he kind of needs to make sure that some of these other guys are depressed in minutes, right? Because he's not guaranteed to see 25 to 30 minutes. He can go in and play 14 tomorrow and it would not be that much of a surprise, but he could also go in and play 25 to 30 because it could be maybe not a massive blowout, but a pretty solid blowout. I think actually LSU is going to play pretty well in this spot. Don't know if they'll come up with it, but the +8, somewhat intriguing here. So yeah, Derek Fountain at 4,100. He's in the player pool. I would just rather pay $100 up and get to Jack Clark from the Clemson side at 4,200 in a much better game environment, in a much better matchup defensively. I mean, Syracuse can't stop anybody. So that's, I guess, a pivot, but that's not really – I might sneak them in one lineup if I play 20, but I don't think you need to go there, especially with Will Baker being cheap too at 5,800 or so. So, yeah, all these other guys under Trey Hannibal at that 5,500, I don't think you have to go there, and I don't think I'm really going to end up there. So, yeah, I'm excited for this game, man. This one's one of the keys to the slate for sure, picking the right Alabama guy and seeing what Baker and Hannibal do for sure.
Will Baker will not be 5,800 the next time we talk. I'm telling you.
Plant your flag.
It's time to get in on some Will Baker action. Baker he's going to help you bake this bread. You see how it all works? It's
written.
Revolutions,
up and down
brother.
And around.
Revolutions.
In a circle, the feel it, the flow, working it. That's right. Very good. Very, very good. Alabama and LSU in that one, the highest total on the slate. I don't blame you for wanting to get some Derek Fountain action and getting into this game cheaply. And before we move on, real quickly, would we want to think about stacking?
Oh, that Alabama side is just such a hard stack. And then, yeah, the LSU side, if Cook is out, like, the Hannibal and Baker stack at home in a Pacers spot.
Yeah,
man.
You can stack up two of them on the cheap, right? Like,
exactly.
Getting into one of these key games for like 11K is not nothing.
Baker and Hannibal for 11.3 combined is enticing. Especially,
cookout.
Yep, yeah, definitely. But if and when we get that news, it's going to be worth a look. The show, thanks, Jason B. And you know what? I did miss our friends, the old beautiful bearded bastards, in the old live chat. Hello, everyone. Hello,
What's
Triple
up, my
D.
guys?
Good to see you back again. Appreciate you hopping in that live chat. Keep it coming. Keep the questions coming. Mama Rocks, we appreciate that. Jason, we appreciate your input on Fountain there as well. Hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't. Leave us a comment even after you're out. If you're watching later, if you're getting up Saturday morning and you're giving that stretch up a morning yawn in, and you're watching One and Done, watching your broskies in the morning, make sure you leave us a comment too. Show us some love. Let us know how you're going to play this 12-game Saturday slate starting at noon Eastern over on DraftKings. Let's move on now. We knew Sam the Sniper would be in the building tonight. We knew he'd be here. The cat signals up for Auburn. Traveling to Florida. 4-point favorites on the road is Auburn. 160-point implied total here. The second highest on the slate. Auburn, 10th offensive efficiency, 3rd defensive efficiency, 64th in tempo. Florida, 17th offensive efficiency, 82nd in defense, and 28th in tempo. These teams get up and down, Mike, but it's hard to take advantage when you got 11-man rotations and 9-man rotations almost spread out damn near evenly. It felt like on the other side. So start with Auburn first, though, and maybe how we can approach the Tigers.
Yeah, man, 11 guys. It's literally 11 guys are going to check into this game and all by the 10-minute mark of the first half, which is absolutely insane. But hey, it's working. They're doing their thing. So, for DFS purposes, it gets really annoying. Florida's defense, softest tissue on the inside, giving up almost 53% from the 2-point land. There's a guy for Auburn that is he's pretty good, and he's at 9,500 now, and that is old Janai Broom. Guess what? In the last three, fellas, a 50-piece, followed by a 43-piece, then another 50-piece, and he has not played more than 26 minutes in any of these games. So, what can you say? Like, the guy's just, it's absolutely bonkers what he can do. I don't need to spend a lot of time saying Janai Bloom is a great tournament play when the guy is one of the few on the slate that can drop 50. And dropping 50 in 25 minutes, no big deal, right? So obviously had that prime matchup against Alabama, trying to play a little bit smaller with Nelson at the 5. Jalen Williams sitting there. We called that out, man. Loved that. The key to that win, though, was Eric's play, which is double forward last slate. He would have scored 91 fantasy points. Between Jalen Williams and Janai Broom. So wish we could redo that one and play both of those guys together, which seems kind of crazy. In this spot, absolutely. Broom does his damage inside. Florida struggles inside. Jalen Williams is a guy that can get it done inside and outside, can pass it a little bit, shooting 40% from 3. So at 7,100, got the $500 price increase. Like, I'm not going to go too ham on this. Probably going to use Janai Broom in tournaments. Jalen Williams, maybe where I'm not playing Broom on some, I'll spend down on maybe a few lineups to get him into some tournaments because he does have that 40 fantasy point upside. But when it comes down to it, it may just come down to a wash because it's tough to pay 7,100 for him, especially with what the guards can do. Like, Trey Donaldson's playing so well right now. He's at 5,700. I'm coming off the 28-piece. Obviously, all these guys went off when he dropped nearly 100 on Alabama in that pace. But a guy with a high assist rate, nearly 32%, shooting 40% from 3. So definitely don't mind it. It feels a little yucky, though. At 5,700, you're kind of paying up for what they did in that last game. Even though Florida's defense is garbage, it's still tough to start paying for these guys at their premium price tags, which is exactly where Trey Donaldson is at right now. We got a comment in here from Cam. He keeps trying to hit this Aiden Holloway game in this timeshare. One of Cam's can't quit you guys here.
You and me both, brother.
He's a great shooter, man. Now the numbers not quite indicative, and he's taking 138 threes, only making 31%. But man, like, he's a lot of fun to watch. A high shot rate. It's really just the minutes, man. Like, it's tough. Like, if he's 4,200, clicking the button in tournaments, but when the guy hasn't gone over 11 in the last 5, like,
how does he
it's
have a
real.
27% shot rate and hasn't gotten over 11 in his last 5? How is this a
Yeah,
thing?
it's crazy, man. Like, and he's not hitting anything. I mean, he's 1 for 6 last game, 0 for 5 in the Vanderbilt game, 0 for 7 in the other Bama game. Like, it's just at some point he's going to hit his shots, right? And he's going to go 3 for 7 and hit 3 3-pointers, and then he's going to stay on the court for longer. He's going to be on the court for 22 minutes instead because he's got a little bit of a hot hand, which is like what Bruce Pearl tends to do with them splitting their minutes. So, Aiden Holloway here, man, at 4,600, kind of interesting for the tournaments if we need to get something different. Let's see, Cam jumping in here saying he is pot committed. If I don't play him, he's good for 25 fantasy points. Well, Cam, could you let me know if you're playing him? I'm not going to play him. Tell me when you don't play him so I can get on him. Scott Harris jumping in here. Any beat writers you follow on Twitter? Great show as always. Have a great and profitable weekend. I mean, it really we go on and we look for the 24/7 guys. We look for the actual newspaper beat writers. Eric, while you jump over to the any plays that you recommend, is there anything you can maybe fill in on like how to find these beat writers? I know you've done a great job with getting us some interviews with some of these guys.
That's actually exactly where we're heading. If you're watching us on YouTube, we have a college basketball interviews playlist where you can see not only all of the coaches we've interviewed, but the various beat reporters that we've interviewed covering and talking about the teams that they cover. One of which that is top of mind for me is Matthew Bruni, the On3 beat reporter for those LSU Tigers. We talked to him. He is the one that I found his report that Jalen Cook is a game time decision for tomorrow, right? So you gotta practice in today, still questionable, but yeah, I mean they're out there. If you do some research, if you're looking for a shortcut, the ones that we have interviewed are a lot of the ones that we trust the most.
Good stuff, man. What do you got on this side of with Auburn, Eric?
The forgotten man for these Auburn Tigers, Chad Baker Mazzara. What can I say about him? He's guard forward eligible, so we certainly enjoy that. But I don't know if you see it sitting there under his name, 6.1K, another super shot dependent guy that we don't really like playing around that price tag, right? Like he's been better over these last couple of games, right? He's got a 26, 32, and then a 24. But these are also games that he's taken more shots and that he's hit a pretty fair percentage of them, right? He's shooting just above the Heinrich line, 39% from downtown on the season. Like I don't mind it as a tournament play. It'll be volatile though, right? Like the floor is pretty bad. He's got some 14s and some mid-team performances out there, right? Like, so you're taking that risk on, but I mean, he'll probably be one of the lowest owned Tigers of the ones that we've talked about tonight. So he's got that going for him.
Definitely does have that going for him. He has the guard forward eligibility going for him, and he has the fact that he's going to be like sub 1.5% owned probably at this price. So if you want to get a little funky, hey, clap your hands. Clap your hands. All right. Chad Baker Mazzara, I don't know if I'll be clapping if I use him too much in my lineups. It does seem like it's been ugly, but the chip and dip, there's the block and the steal rates here, but I do like the 39% from three. I wish he shot a couple more. I almost wish I wish he could find a way to get 5 or 6 up, and that would make me feel a little bit better about paying for him. If I knew he was going to get that, if I knew he was going to get 5 or 6 threes up, maybe, but it's tough. But yeah, Florida now, 9-man rotation. Another instance, Mike, where the minutes are spread out. The Gators, it's tough. It's tough to pin it down.
All over.
It's tough to pin it down. Go ahead, tell us about Florida.
Yeah, Flo Rad is a little tough in this one. Number 1 defense in Auburn, but you love the number of possessions in this game, which makes them kind of a one-off scenario for me. Zion Pullen, though, at 7,900. I'm a good on this right here, man. I think this might be the most expensive he's ever been, and I'm just not really too interested in that. Now the minutes have been there. He really gets it done, with his assist rate. He can hit some threes. Usage rate's still only 21%, obviously a little bit higher during conference play as he's gotten more run here. But I don't know, Zion pulling at 7,900, not my favorite, especially when all these other guards are super cheap. We'll hit on the forwards first before we pivot to the guards. Tyrese Samuel, 7,200. Man, talk about the roller coaster, man. Like, here we go. You're either going to get something in the teens or you might get a 40 or a 50. That's just the way it goes with Tyrese Samuel. It's a tough Auburn front court that can throw 6 guys at you. So, a little tough to click that name at 7,200, but he's in the tournament player pool because he does have so many games where he's dropped 40, even 50 fantasy points. And Micah Handlockton had that ridiculous game a few weeks ago where he dropped that 47 piece against Georgia in that overtime game. That's definitely an outlier game, has come back down to earth. Only 6 last game, 15 the game before that. I'm not really interested in paying 6,400 against a very tough Auburn front court. I think for the other guards, like I guess put Walter Clayton in the can't quit you. I mean, now down to 6,500. A guy I was paying 7,000, 7,500 for, even 8K for. High shot rate, leads the team. Can do a little bit of rebounding and a little bit of a creation to get some assists. 2% steal and block rate, taking 145 threes. That's his specialty. So he's really got to knock down some threes and be able to chip in some of these other categories. But you love that the price has fallen to kind of give you some relief there and also maximize his ceiling. So Walter Clayton at 6,500, definitely an interesting tournament play as a guy that can go for 30, 35 fantasy points, Eric. There are 2 other guards on this team. We thought there might only be 1 other guard on this team, but why don't you tell us about Will Richard and the resurgence of your boy Riley Kugel?
Riley Kugel. Back. 5.3K in here, acting as the fly in the ointment, really just making this whole backcourt a bit of a head scratcher, right? Like, I mean, his rates from when he's been on the court have been pretty strong. 22% usage, 24% shot. Now that he's returned, playing pretty solid minutes over these last couple of games, right? Averaging about 30 per night. So, I mean, look, like, sitting at 5.3K, I think you kind of got to consider him, right? Like, I think it's going to be pretty popular. But that's fine. There are a lot of ways that he can pay off 5.3K. So rotate him in, not the biggest of priorities, but someone that I think you can definitely use as a way to get into this Florida side. And his return really takes the wind out of the sails of Will Richard. He's down to 6.7K. He's really come back to earth with Kugel returning, right? So, like, yes, you like the discount a little bit, but a guy that is doing it a lot with the shot, right? Taking 128 threes on the season. I mean, he should still be probably a large field option just because I don't think anyone's really going to go there. You can find worse ways to get into priority games, but yeah, I mean, the return of Kugel really just bottoms out the upside for Richard. So I would proceed with caution with Richard. I think you can click Kugel's name, but you're probably going to be in good company doing it.
I mean, we're not forgetting that Riley Kugel was 8.1K at the start of the season. I know there's a reason. There's a reason. I get it that it's fallen now to where it is, but this is where I want to be in on guys like this, especially because I don't think it's going to be too long before Kugel's price is up again too. So I definitely like that play. I hope he can get up 5 or 6 3. He got up 6 threes last time out. That would be superb. If I knew Kugel was, that's another guy where if he's getting up 6 3, he's only shooting 32%, but if he's getting them up, he's a guy 24% shot rate that I really, really dig as I throw my keyboard across the kitchen. The tough part is the only thing before we move on. Is Kugel going to play 5 minutes or 30, right? Like, that's the frustrating part about this, but I'm going to have him mixed in for sure because, like I said, I want to be in on this before that price goes up. That's the 3 showcase games. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. nearing one and done after dark time, almost 11:30 on the East Coast. It was just it's not even 8:30 on the West Coast. Shout us out. Let us know what time zone you're watching. Is it past your bedtime? Are you hanging out with us late? Even though you got a big day tomorrow of DFS and television watching, we understand that can be tough, but we're happy that you are staying up late with your broskies in basketball here on One and Done. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Leave us a comment in the live chat. Let's get that going again. And leave us a comment if you're watching late night. You got up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. on a forklift, whatever it is that you're doing out there, like our peeps to do. Make sure that you hit those buttons for us and that bell, those bells. Notification bells are important, so you never miss a minute of our college basketball coverage. Now, showcase done. Let's move on to the old tiers. The old tiers, and not the tears that I feel like I need to cry every time I watch Rodney Terry in a game that he should actually win, as opposed to getting a team up for
it's classless, Jay. It's classless.
I don't care. What are you gonna do? It is what it is. I mean, take it out of my paycheck. I'll take. I'm just
that's the graphics department.
I'm just here so I won't get fined. But yeah, the graphics. I mean, this new frame that we've got, the rundown and everything. I mean, that basically ensured that my raise was gone for the next 7 years at least, minimum. But I'm doing that. I'm here.
Getting the Otani deal, bro.
Yeah, I do need that. Hey,
that deferred money.
Well, yeah. I mean, I got some back end stuff working. I talked to the lawyers and everything. We're good. We're good there. Let's get to the high tier here. And I am starting because I have the microphone, and you will listen to every damn word I have to say. One play and one fade. Follow the rules, boys. Otherwise, I'll shake my finger at you. But I'm going to start with the high tier. And our cover boy, or not our cover boy. He was in the GIF.
Oh, yeah.
Of the hype tweet today, our guy Baylor Shireman. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna break my own rules here. So we're gonna take somebody from Creighton here. Okay, Shireman 9.3K, Alexander's at 9K flat. No need to worry, my accountant handles that. And then Carbrenner is at 8.5K. It's so much usage going on between these three. I almost feel like you can just pick one and be happy with it no matter what. Shireman, 45, 46, 37, 33, and 48 in his last 5. Cash or attorneys for Shireman. Alexander's attorney option only because the floor is, we're bringing it down a couple of notches, a little bit lower. A lot more volatile for Alexander as well. Kalkbrenner has the matchup advantage, I would say, out of the three. As a forward here, the big man, Xavier, struggles guarding those big guys. They don't like the big meaty men slapping meat. So this may be an opportunity if you wanted to get on the Creighton side to get it on the cheap end of it with Kalkbrenner. But pick one of them in that high tier and run with it. I am still not going here to Quincy Olivari at 9.2K.
Kalkbrenner on the other side.
We're still paying for the 71 against who, guys? Who was that again? DePaul. Our sisters of it was DePaul. Why are we paying $9,200 for Olivari because of the 70? Okay, it's okay. Don't play him. I feel like I'm hoping that Eric likes to talk about how the prices shoot up quick and trickle down. I do not think that's going to be the case with Olivari. I do think we're going to see a massive drop in his price. The algorithms are going to catch back up again, and we're going to get him at a more reasonable. We might actually have to think about him. But I'm not even thinking about him at 9.2. Sorry.
Did we ever circle back and find out if he was more or less owned than Benny Williams on the last slate?
Don't think we did. That would have been.
Got to get the research team on it.
Got to get the research team. Hey, hold on. Let me. Yeah, go ahead and hit that. Okay. All right. We're working it. We'll see what happens. We'll see what we can get there. I'm in on one of the Creighton guys. Pick one. I'm fading Olivari. Mike, playing a fade. I broke the rules, but that doesn't mean you should. So one play and one fade.
All right, man. I'm usually the rule breaker around here, but I'll stick to the script. Kyle Filipowski, he's 7,900. Okay.
What a time to be alive.
That's a nice price.
Like you say, Jay, there's a reason he's hasn't been like great, but like his not great is still 29, 26. A blowout here against Notre Dame, 21 minutes. I mean, that's over a fantasy point per minute. So, you worry a little bit about the blowout here. But for tournaments at 7,900 for a 9K player, somebody that you paid 9,500 for on some slates. Kyle Filipowski, definitely a play in tournaments for sure. I'm going to fade the big man who we were all over last game, Quentin Post from Boston College, on the other side of this game, traveling to Cameron Indoor. Big underdogs here, coming off the smash spot. We know bigs against Florida State, right? Like, it's a huge thing there. I think both of him and McLaughlin went off in that game. So, it's just a tough matchup on both ends of the floor for him. So I'm not going to be paying 8,300 for Quentin Post at Duke. Eric, my friend, finish us up here in the high tier.
Hey, Mr. Carter. Devin is him, 9.4K. The dude does absolutely everything for the Friars. He went off for a 43 spot the last time out against his opponent tomorrow in Butler. And he hasn't had less than 30 fantasy points in like 2.5 months. So I don't know if you have to really stretch to make a case for Devin Carter. If you can get up to 9.4K, which you should have a few different ways to do that, he is definitely someone that you should have a long look at in your player pool. On the other side, I'll go a little bit cheaper. I'll go down to Emmanuel Miller, 7.8K, the Horned Frogs forward. I mean, this is a pretty tough out facing those Iowa State Cyclones. Pretty much every single game they have top players laying in their wake that kind of put up duds. So not only that, Miller himself is coming in a little bit cold, only 25 and 21 in his last 2 games respectively. And despite these poor performances, he's gone up $500. So anytime something's weird like this in DraftKings, I tend to just kind of strike through that name and move on. And in tomorrow's case, that is what I will do with Emmanuel Miller.
Makes a lot of sense for sure. Let's move right along to the old mid tier. And there's nothing mid about Donovan Clingan at 7.4K. Played 28 minutes and smashed Butler for 47 fantasy points last time out. And this is another instance, okay, if we want to talk about Olivari dropping a 71 piece against DePaul, if there was a place where I thought I would trust Clingan to drop a 50 burger, against Georgetown, especially if I knew he was going to play in the high 20s. I mean, high 28, 29 minutes. The price is obviously up from where it has been, which you don't really like, but you're going to pay for that 47 from the last time out. This is probably a tourney play only, large field stuff with some volatility and Clingan. You know that's there, but my goodness gracious, what a spot this is. Almost a dream spot for Clingan, and I think he is going to absolutely smash for the second game in a row. Had some love for some Creighton players earlier, but now I'm going to fade Stephen Ashworth. This is the highest price tag he's seen all season long. Been pretty good the last 4 games, but I told you the 3 guys to pick from earlier. So I'd say if I'm paying 7K flat, I might worry a little bit, even if my accountant will handle that, because it's hard to count on that big production as the 4th option on this team. So I'm fading Ashworth, and I am all in on Clingan on this Saturday slate. Mike, hold on a second. Caravan. Who we got? Okay, so Mama Rock said Mama Rock loves some Caravan there. Very good. Very good stuff. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. I'm trying to look at 40,000 things at once. What's going on here? Let's keep moving on, Mike. Let's move on, Mike, here to your play and fade. And I assume you're going to stick to the script again with one apiece.
Yes, I will, sir. Terrence Shannon, the guard from Illinois, 7,100 at Michigan State. The chants are going to be insane, but the production is just, and the minutes are just crazy at 7,100. He went down $300. I mean, he's taken 16 and 17 shots, taking up 17 3-pointers in the last 2 games. Has a little more rebounding and assist upside in his bag too, and has always been a really, really good defensive player. So at 7,100, even on the road, where he's going to get probably some crazy chance, I would still take some shots on Terrence Shannon in tournaments. I'll be fading DJ Davis from Butler. Much of the same reason Jay's fading Stephen Ashworth here. He's 7K. Yeah, I don't want to pay for that, especially since he's really shot dependent. And if I'm going to pay 7K I'd rather pay 6,800 for Posh Alexander. So, Providence, man, they're pretty good defensively, and they like to muck these games up. And we've watched them. We've been on text threads. All these games are going on. These things are just absolutely ugly. I am not paying 7K for DJ at Davis for them Bulldogs. Eric, what you got down here?
I am going to assign a little bit of homework. I want all of the breadheads out here to look up and down the player pool tomorrow and find me a guy under 5.5K playing 30 minutes. The only answer is Tyrese Hunter for Mike and Jay's fighting Texas Longhorns. I mean, it's wild to me to think about his price tag where it is, right? Like this is an absolute misprice in my book. Not to mention the fact that this is a smash spot for Texas, right? They're going up against West Virginia, the same West Virginia team that can't really stop a nosebleed, right? So awesome spot, high usage, high assist rate, great tourney play. Love how this one sets up for Tyrese Hunter. And on the other side, I will go out and fade Talon Cooper. I mean, look, like 6.7K for a guy that hasn't gotten past 5X in like another 2.5 months, right? Like, yes, he had the breakout game against Kentucky. That was fine. But like you take that out and far more readily, you're fairly disappointed with what he's putting up there in these high 6K range, right? So like he's only shooting a 15% shot rate on the year. South Carolina, they're really just kind of trying to bleed out the clock and, keep the number of possessions to a minimum. So don't like how this one sets up for Cooper. I mean, if you want to get into the South Carolina side, Michi's sitting there at 6.2K. Mac is sitting there at 6K. Like, I mean, both of these are players that I would much rather have than Cooper at 6.7.
And it makes so much more sense to pay a little bit, take the haircut there, save that money. I'm not messing with Cooper. Hey, Eric, who are the Longhorns playing? Country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Texas Longhorns, Tyrese Hunter, play the man. You got to get him in, 5,300. Nobody's playing that type of minutes at that price with this production. Longhorns are going to roll tomorrow. In spite of my negativity, I promise you that much. As we move on now, Jason in the comment, Jay is like the dog in Up or Squirrel. Yeah, unfortunately, Jason, it's like you've known me your whole life because that is an accurate representation of basically how I am on a night in and night out basis. But that's all right. We're happy to be here. We're happy you're here, and I'll be whatever it takes. I'll play the role. I know your role and shut your mouth. Sorry, I got all hyped up off of that press conference the other day for WrestleMania. The Rock is all right. Here we go. Let's move on to the old low tier, and I am starting off Francisco Farabello. Love me the double F there. Creighton, another Creighton player that I'm into. 3,700 at Xavier, obviously. Now, maybe stack, somebody if you wanted to get into that game a little bit, maybe somebody that you could consider playing with one of those main options there for them. This is the obvious what we call the old dumpster dive. Now, foul trouble on one of the big guys that we might play, then this is where we see Farabello in more. But if you're stacking the guy that goes into foul trouble that he plays for, it kind of defeats the purpose there. So, But Farabello is definitely somebody that I think you got to consider to get into that game. 3,700. Xavier's going to get up and down. Farabello is going to shoot a ton of threes. I think you got to consider playing him there. Eric, play here in the old low tier. Now let me go to Mike. Mike first. We'll wrap up with Eric. Mike, you go first with your play.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Caleb Foster from Duke, 4,700, playing Boston College. We outlined a bunch of plays earlier, so these guys they're not really gonna hit as as like a Jack Clark would, as like a Miles Studi would, as some of these other guys we outlined that are like lower 5K type plays. But these are some of the guys that should be in the pool. Obviously, a potential blowout here. Foster's a guy that, when he plays high 20s minutes, which he did in that blowout against Notre Dame, he has 20 fantasy point upside, even 25 fantasy point upside. So definitely don't mind him to be in the player pool. So, Eric, who you got in this final spot?
Twice in one show, I get to reach into my thesaurus and reference the aforementioned Miles Studi, 4.2K. I was talking about fading Talon Carter earlier. If you want to get into the South Carolina side, going down to a 4.2K Studi is definitely a preferred way to go about it. You also get to walk down narrative street, right? We got the revenge game narrative here. He was dealing with an injury here recently, so that has factored into his price drop overall. I mean, 20 to 25 is definitely on his range, right? Especially if he's making his threes, and he takes a fair amount of them, right? So, guy that's shooting about 93s on the season, so he fills up a few of them from downtown. You're going to be feeling real good about that 4.2K price tag.
No doubt about it. Let's hit the live chat before we get to the core four. Cam asking about Edwards at 7,700 for West Virginia. Are we getting some shares of Jesse Edwards, Mike?
Man, I don't know. For tournaments, I can see it. Texas gets really hurt by the three ball, though. They're just getting punished from three. So penetration really hurts them. When you got Dazoo, Caden Shedrick, Onyema in there banging around, and also potential blowout. I mean, it's a 13-point spread here. So yeah, I don't know. I don't feel too great about Jesse Edwards against the Horns here. I mean, 7,700. If he puts up 32, it's not. I mean, that's not going to win you a tournament. You know what I mean? That's just over 4x. So, not for me, Cam, and not just because I'm a homer, but really, Texas gets burned on guys that shoot threes. So, Jesse Edwards, not for me.
Before we move off that game, Kendall Weaver, somebody that we've been on, that price is up above 5K now.
Yeah.
I was really liking paying in the mid fours and even the high fours a little. I didn't mind it. I don't know that I can get to 5.2 with Weaver if he's only shooting the ball 4 or 5 times a game. Yeah, no, I don't think it's a thing. So, but that is somebody that we've been high on recently. But it's just that price is just I don't know if I could do it. Mama Rocks, I always appreciate the love for the old singing, but all due respect, John Denver is not Gladys Knight, so I don't know. That's gonna be.
You got some Gladys Knight in your bag,
Come on.
my guy.
We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to. I can't. I'm not going midnight train to Georgia off the cuff here tonight.
Look,
I don't know.
Whenever Jay's ready, Mama Rocks, just know that I was born to be a pip. All right, I got the backup vocals for our guy.
We may have to do a little, we may have to do a little GSM Breadhead band practice.
Oh, jeez.
Mike, you could play the tambourine or the
I was gonna go cowbell. Definitely
cowbell
niche
too.
percussion is Mike playing.
Definitely, that egg counts as percussion. You could do that.
Oh yeah, the castanet.
Good. What about the triangle? Just
Oh, dude, yeah, that's my jam,
rock
dude.
that, dude.
Yes, absolutely, dude. My triangle would not be silver; it would be gold, though.
Whoa!
I don't know if it makes the same sound. We have to look at the science department for that.
Well, I think the science that any research is going to further remove from my salary, so they might as well just do it anyway. Let's figure out if. Yeah, I'll deal with it. It's fine. Let's move on now. It is almost midnight there in Georgia, Mama Rocks. Shout out last night.
Mom Rock's like, give me the damn Core Four.
He's like, Mom Rock, give me the Core Four because it is almost midnight. Let's move on to it. The cash core first. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Some really solid options here if you're playing cash games.
Why, thank you, kind sir. That'll start with Cha-ching, Mr. Cash, Mr. Money, Mark Sears, who you can also play in tournaments. But for cash, you just know you're going to get 35 fantasy points when you click the name. That's good at that price for 4X, which you will take. So Mark Sears at 8,800. Jack Clark, we're banking on the 30 minutes. We're banking on the trend here. Got the start, 4,200. Not a lot of guys at that price tag you can find at playing those type of minutes. And also a very solid player coming up from North Carolina State. Judah Mintz, 8,400. Phenomenal rates. Love the matchup. That game is going to produce a ton of fantasy points. And then we need the news. Jalen Cook's out. Trey Hannibal, slot him in there at 5,500. We'll play 30 minutes. If he's not in, you got a bunch of pivots. Jeremiah Williams is 5,500 from Rutgers. Jaden Pierre, if you want 35 minutes or so from Providence, it's an ugly 35 minutes. Or you can just make it really easy on yourself and remove Hannibal there and go ahead and just slot up to Will Baker at forward in that LSU game at 5,800. So definitely need to know that Jalen Cook is out. So obviously with cash plays, we love to have higher floors, guys that are going to be on the court a ton. And so it feels like those four guys right there, you'll be feeling really good, and you will have 57.75 left over for the rest of your lineup, which, it's not bad. Usually in the cash, we leave you guys with like 5K. So give me a little extra coin this time.
Leave you with 5K and tell you to figure it out, deal with it.
Figure it out.
Before I go to Eric's tourney core for Mike, you had the LSU guys there in the cash score.
Yeah.
Can you stack them at all in a tournament? Is it worth a look at that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I figured,
Hannibal and Baker. Yeah.
Okay. I like
Definitely.
it. But again, there's safe plays, but also the floors are high enough to where the cash game is a good play. Mm-hmm. But the volatility is there in a positive way to be able to really hop up and outplay their price. So definitely. Okay, let's get to that tournament core four here with our guy Eric the Blue. What do you got?
Starting us off, I will double back down on my guy that I broke down, Tyrese Hunter. Again, mid 5K price tag, playing 30 plus minutes, a smash spot against West Virginia. So you love how this one sets up. Aaron Estrada, Cam earlier mentioned that he was pot committed on Holloway from the Tigers. I'm pot committed on Aaron Estrada. Basically, every time that Alabama's on the slate, he is my favorite way to leverage off of Mark Sears chalk. He hasn't gotten there yet. So one of these days he will. I think that this could be one of those days indeed. Like him at 6.6K. Joe Girard, our third guard here, walking down Narrative Street. The Clemson guard returning to Syracuse. Love how this one sets up. I do think he'll be a little bit popular. And then Kyle Filipowski, we were all scratching our head at what this dude is doing below 8K in his price tag. Being able to get a player of his magnitude into your forward spot under 8K is something that you have to capitalize on. So these four combined will leave you with even more money, almost 6K per player remaining. So a lot of flexibility in how you round out the rest of that roster.
Yeah, you can go back and play Hannibal and Baker if Cook is out, and you're going to be above for your last two players. You're going to be above 6,500 or so. Like, I mean, it's worth a shot. And then if you find that value, one of those lower priced guys. Let's say you really like a Farabello, or if you hadn't gotten into Creighton yet, or you like
Studi.
You like Studi, and that, again, going down Narrative Street, which that's a road we like to walk down here on One and Done. So lots of ways to do it. That's a couple of ways, a couple of players to look at, a couple of approaches to take, but we will be able to get crazy for feeling so lonely. Crazy.
Getting on the midnight train.
My guy. We were looking for Jay. Mike had it the whole time.
That's what I'm talking
No,
about.
I'll stick to the
That,
ding.
I love
Here,
it.
hold
I
on.
love
We'll
it.
clear
Either
out. Do
way.
your thing, Mike.
Yeah, do you go ahead,
Get
man?
off.
ladies and
No.
gentlemen. No, all right, very good. There's the core four for the old turning play: Tyrese Hunter, Aaron Estrada, Joe Girard, and Kyle Filipowski, who I still can't believe is under 8K.
Wow.
And then for the old cash core four: Mark Shears, Jack Clark, Judah Mintz, and then one of the LSU guys figured out. Put them in there. Got some good floors in there. Really,
You figure it out.
Big if Jalen Cook remains out. If not, we gave you some
Pivot.
options to use. Pivot, like your Ross and Chandler taking the couch up the stairs on Friends, and Ross pivot. Just do it. Just pivot. Got to pivot. Let's get some closing comments from the old captain.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Jack Clark attorneys either. So you have a lot. I just think you can do whatever you want, which is where I end up putting like 50 lineups in, and it's just like, what happened here? None of it worked. But no, I think you can really just kind of mix and match and just do what you want here. There's a lot of good options, a lot of solid value options, a lot of great guys up in a lot of that mid tier, that soft low mid tier. I mean, Tyrese Hunter at that price, Aaron Estrada at that price, like, man, like it's going to take a big number because there's going to be some big scores, point per dollar, I feel like. So, yeah, just try to find the one that makes the most sense to you.
Eric, close us out.
Man, anytime the board's wide open like this, one of the ways I like to get different is by paying up in my stacks, right? A lot of times you'll see people pay up for one player on a particular game or on a particular side of that game and then go spend somewhere else. Obviously, we referenced the Janai Broom, Jalen Williams explosion from the last game. I'm not necessarily advocating for the double forward approach, right? But if you want to take a look at like a Shireman and a Kalkbrenner, you want to take a look at a Sears and a Nelson, right? Like using your stacks with both options being expensive is usually not all that popular of approach, and I think it will create a little leverage on the field.
Little bit of leverage as my AirPods die. My keyboard was
French?
expired today. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a fragile. I think it's Italian, actually. Ladies and gents, another solid, fan-filled, fantastic, frantic squirrel episode of One and Done. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Oh, Jason getting one more in here before we go. Oduro, is it?
Yeah, I mean, Providence, it's Devin Carter and Oduro. Like,
those two guys.
and then run the point night. Some fan is going to be out there for 22 minutes playing.
I have eligibility, and
Tag them in.
They don't just hand out second team all district 27 2A recognition to anybody.
No,
I
they
mean,
don't.
I'm sorry, they don't.
We've gotten to know Coach English, right? Like we can float a call out there.
We have. I mean, he got news of a player entering the transfer portal while we were interviewing him. Literally, I think we're that tight now. So we should actually. It's worth the phone call. I think I could give him 2-minute bursts at least.
Dude, hop on the
Maybe
PJ.
3.
You'll be there in like 90 minutes.
All right, I'm getting on we're heading out. Let's get out of here so I can hop on the One and Done private jet. Thanks for Cam, Mama Rocks, Corey, Sam the Sniper, because we put up the Auburn signal, the cat signal, Jason B, Scott Harris, of course, showing us some love in the live chat. We appreciate all of y'all. We appreciate everybody for hanging out with us, staying up late, or watching later on. Either way, thanks for being a part of what we do here. Like and subscribe. Turn on the notification bells. Follow us all on X, Twitter, Elon's Hellhole, whatever you want to call it. At One and Done CBB. WONAND C. It's late. At WONAND DONE CBB. I got it.
Yeah, use it in a sentence.
Still couldn't spell it. No, I'd rather not. What's the origin of the word? What's the origin of the word here? Hey, let's go win us a ticket tomorrow. Let's go win us a spot in that King of the Bracket. Let's go win us let's go get us a prize with a comma in it, boys. What do you say?
Yeah, buddy.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. We love commas and we love you for hanging out with us. Make sure that you take care of yourself. Love yourself. Tell somebody else you love them too. You never know how you can help somebody else's day. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're brought to you by drroto.com. We're the Broskies in basketball. Now let's go get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.